You all are requested. Admiral Muhammad Afzal Tahir, Nishan-e-Imtiaz Military, former Chief of the Naval Staff, for gracing the event as the Chief Guest. The Chief Guest will be joining us in a few minutes. Upon his arrival, you are requested to rise in his honor. Guests are requested to settle down and turn off your mobile phones or put them on silent. The Chief Guest will be joining us in a few minutes. Upon his arrival, you are requested to rise in his honor.
session chief guest, Admiral Muhammad Afzal Tahir.
In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent, I demand National Maritime Symposium, which has been convened to deliberate on the subject of geo-economic dimensions of Indian ocean region, opportunities for nature and beyond.
Selected for deliberation in this session is Maritime Cooperation in Indian Ocean region. Dear guests, we will commence our proceeding of the session with the recitation of the Holy Quran. I would like to invite Qazi Muhammad Imdad for the recitation and offering of Durood Pak.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وهو الذي سخر البحر لتأكلوا منه لحما طريا وتستخرجوا منه حلية تلبسونها وترى الفلك مواخر فيه ولتبتغوا من فضله ولعلكم تشكرون وألقى في الأرض رواسي أن تميد بكم وأنهارا وسبلا لعلكم تهتدون صدق الله العظيم.
Translation. And it is he who has made the sea subservient for you, that you eat fresh flesh from it, and bring forth from it ornaments which you wear, and you see boat cleaving through water, and that you seek of his bounty, and that happily you may be grateful to him. And he has set up anchor in the earth, lest it may shake with you, and river and road, that you may get directions. Jazakallah.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد.
Jazakallah. Ladies and gentlemen, We are privileged to have Vice Admiral retired Syed Khawar Ali Shah, Hilal Imtiaz Military, as the moderator of this session. The session speakers include Commodore retired Dr. Anjum Sarfaraz from Nima, Islamabad, Professor Dr. Mehmet Sefti Nirol, CEO Ankasam, Turkiya, Dr. Peter Topichkanov from Russia, and Dr. Samir Iqbal, Professor at Texas University, USA.
But before I hand over the session to moderator, let me introduce Vice Admiral retired Syed Khawar Ali Shah, Hilal Imtiaz Military. Vice Admiral Khawar Ali Shah joined Pakistan Navy in 1974. He served the Navy in various capacities. He is duly qualified as a Surface Navy officer and a naval aviator. He is qualified Principal Warfare Officer from Royal Navy and Tactical Coordinator TACO on board Atlantic aircraft from France. He has vast experience on board warship and has flown over 3,000 flying hours on board LRMP aircraft. The Admiral has vast experience at senior strategic positions including Assistant Chief of Naval Staff for Plans, HR Manager for Officers of Pakistan Navy, Commander Karachi and Head of Naval Training Branch. He also implemented balanced scorecard in the Pakistan Navy.
He retired from the Navy in 2013 and was sent as Pakistan Ambassador to Maldives, where he was responsible for improvement of trade and people relations between the two countries. On return in 2018, he headed a maritime think tank, that is National Institute of Maritime Affairs, NIMA, for providing input to the government for improvement of blue economy. He has an MBA degree from prestigious Institute of Business Administration, Karachi, and an MA in Strategy from Deakin University, Australia. He is also a visiting faculty in Bahia University for Strategic Management and Corporate Leadership. He is an avid golfer and has working knowledge of French. Over to you, sir.
Thank you.
The chief guest, though Admiral Mohammad Afzal Tahir Nishan-e-Imtiaz Military needs no introduction. He commanded the Navy from 2005 to 2008. The institute where we are today, National Institute of Maritime Affairs, I remember vividly, was his one of his brainchilds, and it would be worthwhile to listen to him what he conceived and how it has come along. He was also the architect for the Aman exercises. The speakers, previous speakers spoke very highly of Aman, that how the Indians talk so much against the Aman, that the Pakistan has stolen the thunder out of their Malabar exercises. So he was in his tenure very bold step to start this Aman, which is continuing. So he was a chief advisor to the government of Pakistan on maritime affairs. He is an aviator, a surface navy officer. He commanded the Pakistan fleet, and he continues to be, his presence is felt. He's a very popular writer. People follow his blogs. So, and his analysis and foresight is very respected in the government and the other circles. So this in short is the profile of our worthy speaker. Now coming to the topic. So we will be in this session, in the previous session there was a lot of negativity, dysfunctional, dystopia, people were talking because it was about security. So this session is about hope, that what is possible, despite our differences, what is possible in the region, right? So I've jotted down some points to introduce the topic, and we have our speakers from abroad also. The Maritime Security Cooperation. I've lived on a small island in the Indian Ocean, and I've seen in a very small, tiniest of the countries in the world. So how much important is the Indian Ocean? As you all know, Indian Ocean was not known as Indian Ocean. It was the Eastern Ocean. The Western Ocean was the Mediterranean. This name itself is not very old. It is a very complex, diverse and dynamic and a very fragmented region. There are multiple areas of cooperation despite our differences and despite our different roles. But the Indian Ocean region is a place where it is possible that global, regional and national objectives can come together. As you all know, the International Maritime Organization is very important organization for regulating the seas, especially the shipping and whatever is happening out there. So the Indian Ocean is part of our great heritage and great common. So it is a duty of all the 45 littoral nations of the Indian Ocean to promote cooperation in the region for our common prosperity. And needless to say, all countries stand to benefit from cooperation. We have huge issues in climate change, pollution. If there is an oil spill, no single country can manage that. Already the systems are in place so that all, even India, Pakistan, we come together to fight oil pollution out at sea. We have the, in future, we have the resources issue. We have the resources exploitation which needs to be talked about. Then there is a big problem coming up, which is the food security. The land is getting less and the people are looking towards the sea for food security. Transnational crimes where we need each other's help, and there are criminal activities which you know are there's a lot of cooperation required. We already have the Tuna Commission in the Indian Ocean, where you have very diverse countries cooperating together, because as you know, tuna is a very migratory fish, and unless the countries cooperate together, there's not much which can be done. Search and rescue, we are already cooperating with each other in search and rescue. Then during Admiral Tahir's patrol, we also participated in anti-piracy patrol. The CTF in the Gulf and later on in the Horn of Africa was also one of the things which were decided during his tenure. Then the maritime security, blue economy, because the previous speakers spoke about that how, especially Ambassador Enam, that how we are depleting our resources. The blue economy is a place where you can actually sustainable, and it is a new frontier where a lot of growth is possible. We talked about the 67% of youth, where a lot of jobs can be created. Then there are port state controls, ISPS code in the IOR, and another thing which is coming up is the maritime domain awareness. So you have the lot of exchange of intelligence and information. So this is the, in short, the topic which we are going to do in this session. We have very eminent speakers from abroad and from Pakistan. I would request all the speakers and the question and answers to be geared towards for the audience to the session topic. And with this introduction, I would like to invite the first speaker, which is Commodore Anjum Sarfraz, and let me introduce him. Dr. Anjum Sarfraz is a retired Commodore of Operations Branch of Pakistan Navy. He did PhD International Relations from Karachi University in 2016. During service, he did MSc in Pakistan Studies, MSc in War Studies, and MBA. He held command and staff appointments including Director Naval Operations, Director Naval Intelligence, and Chief Instructor Naval War College Lahore. Commander Training Assured, and PN Civilian Authority. He has been Deputy Commandant and Training Commander of Naval Academy. He commanded a destroyer and a submarine chaser and has served as Executive Officer of Cruiser Babar. He qualified Naval Staff Course from Navy and Armed Forces War Course from National Defence University, Islamabad, Principal Warfare Course from UK and Ops Intelligence Course from USA. After retirement, he served in various capacities in Karachi Port Trust, including General Manager Administration, has served as Director of National Institute of Maritime Policy Research, Director of Barrier University Islamabad Campus and Senior Research Fellow in Strategic Vision Institute, Islamabad. Has been on the visiting faculty of Barrier and International Islamic Universities. Presently, he is serving as Senior Research Fellow at the National Institute of Maritime Affairs. He delivers talks in think tanks, especially on maritime affairs, and regularly writes articles for journals and newspaper. So over to Dr. Anjum Sarfraz, and he will be talking on transit and transshipment prospects for Pakistani ports.
So thanks for the kind introduction. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Admiral Muhammad Afzal Tahir, former Chief of the Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Ahmed Saeed, Hilal Imtiaz Military, DG Nima, Vice Admiral Khawar Ali, the moderator of this session, learned speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I shall be talking to you can you see this? Okay. In the next 15 minutes, I shall be talking to you about transit and transshipment prospects for Pakistani ports. Main points covered are shown on this screen. First, introduction to the ports, that is Karachi Port Trust. It is operating since 1887, 33 berths including 3 oil pairs, 9 operated by terminal operators, that is Karachi International Container Terminal and Pakistan International Container Terminal. Maximum draft permissible is 13 meter, but now newly built South Wharf, it is operated by Pakistan, South Asia Pakistan Terminal, SPT, which has 1500 meter quay wall and 16 meter draft, fairly good draft, and has handled plus 300 meters long ships with 15.5 meter draft. Last year, this port has handled 52 million tons of cargo. This slide gives the terminal functioning at the port. First column gives the establishment, year of establishment. Second is the companies which are operating. And last one is the estimated cost. You can see that for the South Wharf building, KPT has spent 1.4 billion US dollars, and the terminal operator, that is Hutchison Port, has spent 600 billion. This means that about 2 billion US dollars have been spent. And may I mention here that for building the Gwadar port, the total money spent was only 248 million. Next, coming over to cargo handling capacity of KPT. Total cargo handling capacity is 125 million tons, all types of cargo. Containers 4.1 million tons. Last fiscal year, it has handled 52 million tons. This means it has double the capacity to handle more cargo. But the only deficiency is that the railway share was only 5%, and which needs to be increased. And at the same time, because the port is now located in the center of the city, so there is congestion in the Karachi city because of operation of this port, and as well as it is hampering the operation of the port. Coming over to transit and transshipment cargo handled by KPT, the figures are for the past 3 years. For Afghanistan, they handled only 229,000 containers. For China, nil. And for CAR states, only 139. This means the share of transit share of CAR state and China needs to be increased. And the handling of transshipment cargo is also nominal. And by the way, I mentioned over here, when the port was started, it was said that it will attract the transshipment cargo also and transit cargo also, but unfortunately, it has not been able to do so. Coming over to railway projects to increase share and reduce congestion at Karachi, which I have already mentioned. Railway is actively thinking dedicated freight corridor. This means that they are carrying out the feasibility study that from the ports, the cargo is taken to Pipri, and from Pipri onward, then it can be shifted to upcountry by rail or by trucks. This is still in the feasibility study stage, and if this happens, this means that the congestion at the Karachi will be reduced, railway share will be increased, and at the moment, only trucks are allowed in Karachi from 2300 to 0600 only for 7 hours. The next railway project which it is handling is Rail Automated Booking and Travel Assistance. A fully computerized system is being developed by Ministry of Railways for booking of cargo and reservation of passengers. This is also a step forward for the provision of ease of business. However, the railway authorities needs to complete these projects on priority. Briefly about Port Qasim, operational since 1980, 18 berths, 16 operated by the terminal operators, only 2 by the PQA authority, handles all type of cargo, that is oil, LNG, LPG, coal, cement, clinkers, all type of cargo. It has taken the shape of energy hub of Pakistan. Last fiscal year, it has handled 55 million tons. This means more than the KPT. Although I have already said that the KPT has 16-meter draft wharf, but still the cargo handled by PQA is more. Next is terminal functioning at PQA. This slide shows the total terminal. Last figure shows the year of operation. Then last one, it gives the cost of the terminal for operation. And you may like to see that in 2017, 4 terminals were made operational. Coming over to cargo handling capacity. Total cargo handling capacity is 83 million, containers 2 million, last fiscal year, as I said, 55 million. So this port has sufficient capacity to handle the cargo. This means that they can handle the transit and transshipment cargo. There is a sufficient capacity in both the ports. Cargo lifted by railway is only 12%. Railway share, as I already said, needs to be increased. Now, coming over to transit and transshipment cargo handled by PQA. Afghanistan, 23,000 containers in 3 years. China, nil. CR states, only 51 containers. And transshipment cargo, it has handled in 3 years, only 6,000 containers. Very nominal as for such a big port. Coming over to Gwadar Port, main objective of Gwadar Port for building were to act as an alternate port, handle transit and trade of China, Afghanistan, and CAR state. The feasibility study and the PC1 included that this port will be used for transit and transshipment trade. Next is the facilitate to supply of cargo to hinterland of Pakistan and development of Balochistan province, especially the Gwadar region. Coming over to main features of the Gwadar port. Quay wall is 602 meters, 100 meters is service berth, design depth is 13.8 and alongside berth is 14.5. Channel length is only 4.7 kilometer, ideal. As far as PQ is concerned, it is 45 kilometer long. This means that the ship remains in that port good about 3 to 4 hours. And over here, less than half an hour. Backup area is 383 square meters, sufficient area to stack the cargo for transit, transshipment, and for other reasons. Next is the total ships handled by Gwadar port. This port was being operated by Port of Singapore Authority for 7 years, and only 162 ships were handled. And then now it is with the China Overseas Port Holding Company, and in 9 years they have handled only 223 ships. So in total 14 years it has handled 385 ships. And only recently it has started handling the transit cargo for Afghanistan. 2020 for only 42,000 ton, and in 2021 77,000 ton. Transshipment it has not yet started. Now coming over to the main topic, that is requirement for transit trade. For transit trade to landlocked countries, you need to have the connectivity, rail as well as the road. Rail we have from ports up to Haveli and then Peshawar for Kunjrab Pass and Khyber passes, but I will concentrate on the roads. So there are two routes available. One is the eastern route. One is the eastern route, that is from PQ and Karachi, from Karachi till Burhan interchange. Burhan interchange is the main interchange. From there the cargo will go to Kunjrab Pass and to Khyber Pass. From Karachi to Burhan, all is available as motorway except between Sakhar and Hyderabad, and that motorway is also under construction. But in this patch also there is a dual carriageway on which the 22-wheeler trucks can ply. 22-wheeler trucks having 70 tons axle load, they can ply. And from Burhan till Mansehra is again, there is a motorway, and from Mansehra to Kunjrab Pass via Gilgit. Either it is a two-lane road or two-way dual carriageway. On this road also 22-wheeler trucks can ply, and they are plying. Next is the western route. Western route is basically from Gwadar to Burhan. This route is from Gwadar to Quetta up to D.I. Khan. From Gwadar, Quetta, D.I. Khan, there is a dual carriage or two lanes roads on which 70-ton axle load trucks can ply. And from D.I. Khan to Islamabad and Islamabad to Burhan, there is a motorway. And from Burhan to Peshawar, again there is a motorway. And from Peshawar to Khyber Pass, again there is a dual carriageway. Again, the trucks bigger trucks can ply, carrying 40 tons load can ply on these roads. Now coming over to quadrilateral agreement. This is a requirement, this agreement is a requirement that if the transit trade has to pass, the countries should agree to it. So this quadrilateral agreement for traffic in transit was signed by Pakistan, China, Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, is operative since 2004. The contracting parties agreed to allow the movement of goods in transit from point of entry to point of exit. Pakistan allowed 30 days, China 180 days, Kazakhstan 7 days, and Kyrgyzstan 30 days. But this agreement is not functioning since 2019 after COVID. This agreement needs to be made operative because the condition of COVID have much improved. Now coming over to prospects for transit trade. To summarize this, road connectivity is available from ports to Punjab and Khyber passes. Correlated agreement exists for traffic to transit, but it is not functional, as I have already said, since 2019. In addition to transit trade from ports, export of various other commodities to CR state is likely to increase. So if this agreement is made operative, other export between these countries can start. And secondly, the security situation in Afghanistan has much improved. Possibilities of transit trade to CR state through Afghanistan have also increased. Coming over to transshipment. Just a minute. Sorry. Okay. Okay, I'll just read it because it is becoming difficult to match with what I read. The transshipment concept refers to the shipment of containers or goods to an intermediate port before being taken to the final destination. It plays a critical role due to infrastructure limitation in smaller seaports, primarily having shallow draft and inefficient cranes for handling the containers. The shipping line strategy is to have minimum ports of call of their bigger ships. Nowadays, an average container is handled 3 to 4 times between the first port of landing and the final port of discharge. Area-wise, Singapore is a small country, but Port of Singapore is the largest after Shanghai. And it is only because it is handling the transshipment cargo. It is in the sea trade routes, so it has developed their ports for transshipment and they are earning money. Next is the point for Gwadar as transshipment. Gwadar port is located at the right location to operate as a transshipment hub. Containers shipped from Far East, Red Sea and African countries on the bigger ships and destined for the Persian Gulf countries and other regional ports can be unloaded here and shipped on feeder to these ports and vice versa. Ports in the vicinity of Salalah, Sohar, Dukam of Oman and Jabal Ali of UAE are likely to give tough competition. It may be overcome by offering ease of business and competitive rates. I may mention here that the founder, the task force which located this port for operation, Captain Aleem Siddiqui, I had to interview in one context. He said that the idea of building this port was transit and transshipment. And it was conceived in 1993. It could not be built then. Then it started in 97. Then because of 98 nuclear explosion, there were sanctions, could not be started. And then it started in 2001, completed in 2007, and now it is 2022. And the performance, it is before you. Now, requirement for Gwadar port as transshipment hub. The channel depth is required to be increased to design depth because the present depth is only 11.5 meters. Telecom network, especially Wi-Fi, needs improvement in Gwadar area. Functioning of special industrial zone at Gwadar may be done on priority. State-of-the-art cranes and associated equipment needs to be installed by the concession holder. Finally, coming over to the proposal for way forward. Reasonable network is available from the ports to Punjab and Khyber passes, and security situation in Afghanistan has considerably improved. Therefore, landlocked Central Asian states may be actively pursued for the transit trade. China may also be pursued to start transit trade for its western province, and quadrilateral agreement be made functional on priority. Dredging of Gwadar Channel to its design depth, 14.5 meter, be done on priority for start of transshipment. In the meantime, the China Overseas Port Holding Company, which is presently the concession holder, may initiate actions to operate the port at its optimum performance. The establishment of special zone at Gwadar and other places be given priority. These will help to increase export-import of Pakistan. Finally, Ministry of Railway may complete the dedicated freight corridor and rail automated booking and travel assistance projects on priority. This ends my presentation, and thanks for giving patient hearing.
Thank you, Commodore Sarfraz. You might ponder upon the other 3-4 transshipment ports which will compete with Gwadar. Maldives is trying to make one. There is Ahmed Tota in Sri Lanka. The Indians are making one at Tuticorin. So there's a lot of competition coming wherever the sea lines of major sea routes pass. For our next topic, we have an eminent speaker from our brotherly country of Turkey, Professor Mehmet Seyfettin Erol. He is a Chief Executive Officer of Ankara Kriz va Siyasat Araştır Malari Markazi. He will explain it later what it is. He graduated from Bosphorus University, Department of Political Science and International Relations in 1993. Having completed his doctorate in Ankara University in 2005, he received the Associate Professorship in the field of International Relations in 2009 and his professorship title in 2014. Professor Erol worked at the Eurasia Strategic Research Center between 2000 and 2006. In 2009, he became the founding chairman member of the board of directors of the Institute of Strategic Thinking. As the founding chairman of the first e-think tank, in 2007, he received Turkic World Award from the Turkic World Writers and Artists Foundation. Professor Erol has been awarded with numerous awards for his academic works and activities. He has written 13 books. Some of these names are Turkey-EU Relations, Foreign Policy and Internal Structure Problems, New Great Game in Eurasia, Strategy Search in Turkish Foreign Policy, Relations between the Republic of Turkey, Russian Federations, New NATO, Cold Organization of Hot Peace, Theoretical Approaches to Foreign Policy Analysis, The Case of Turkish Foreign Policy, Crisis and Crisis Management, Actors and Case Studies. Since 2002, he has worked as the producer of the radio program such as Eurasian Agenda, Strategic View, Global View Analysis. Professor Erol, who has been working between the years 2006 and 18 as a member of academic staff of Ghazi University. Since 2018, he's been working the same position in the International Relations Department of Behram Valley University. He has many articles published in different academic journals. He's member of editorial board of academic journals as Eurasian File, Strategic Analysis, Strategic Thinking, Ghazi Regional Studies, the Journal of SSPS, and he is currently editor of the Journal of Ghazi Academic Review and the Journal of Black Sea Research. And and he will be speaking on regional maritime connectivity, Eurasian perspective. Over to Professor.
Thank you very much, dear President. ANKASAM, Ankara Kriz ve Siyaset Araştırmaları Merkezi, in English, yes, Center for Crisis and Policy Studies, ANKASAM. Thank you very much. Dear President and dear participants, I respectfully greet you as the President of the Ankara Center for Crisis and Policy Studies, ANKASAM. I would like to express that I am very happy to be in a friendly and brotherly Pakistan once again this year. I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to NIMA for inviting me to this distinguished symposium and bringing us together with esteemed academics, experts, and friends in the presence of my dear friend, Director General NIMA, Ahmed Said. And in addition, I would like to express my gratitude to my esteemed brother, Director of NIMA, Bilal Abdul Nasir, for his great efforts in organizing this important symposium. Our agenda here today is the challenges and future prospects of the Indian Ocean region and the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, SPEC, in Eurasia-centered regional connectivity. The title of the symposium itself sends a certain message. As of today, the corridors, including the Indian Ocean region, in Eurasia-centered regional connectivity, and SPEC, as one of them, are facing multidimensional challenges and a future problem. The problem here is undoubtedly not only the future of SPEC, but also the uncertainties in the future of the Eurasia and IOR. Undoubtedly, at this point, the meaning attached to SPEC, which is the focus of my speech, and the approach, expectations, and reactions of the parties to this project have a very decisive place. Since the esteemed speakers before me have clearly stated what the Indian Ocean region and SPEC are in the context of regional connectivity and what kind of place and importance they have. So I don't want to touch on these issues here once again. In my speech, I would like to share with you some of my observations and evaluations by approaching SPEC from geopolitical and geostrategic perspectives. In the meantime, I request you in advance to perceive my evaluations and suggestions as a speech that a friend and a brother do, rather than advice, please. Theoretically, first of all, SPEC is an important development project, both for Pakistan and for the region. In this context, SPEC emerged as a strategic and important project in terms of the economic momentum it will bring to Pakistan and the region, with an investment volume of $60 billion and designing the logistics and transportation lines of energy, resources, and products. I believe that the main slogan of this project is a line that was expressed by Wing Yu, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of China, in his speech. If the Belt and Road project is a symphony covering all countries, SPEC is the first melody of this symphony. Therefore,
Pakistan is one of the most important actors standing out in terms of SPEC and is a part of a transition period for the future. Pakistan has got a unique corner and center geopolitical and strategic position among Central Asia, South Asia, China, and Indian Ocean region too. On the other hand, it is important to underline the following point, which is Pakistan is going through the biggest crisis of its history and future. Pakistan is being forced to make a choice, and it seems to be at a decision stage. Enhancing relations between China and Pakistan, focusing on economics and trade, affects the approaches of other countries. Pakistan is an independent and sovereign country, and undoubtedly it is free in its choices. However, it is also apparent that the conflict between these two powers is drifting towards becoming an arena of power struggle. The realization of SPEC is only possible with military and political stability at this point. On the other hand, we know that there are some challenges in terms of SPEC. The three major challenges facing SPEC, leaving aside the economic dimension, is the security dimension. On the security dimension, there are three issues. One, security of the maritime corridors and the future of Indian Ocean region. Two, escalating ethnical and religious problems in the region. Three, current and possible reactions of regional and global powers and political polarizations effects on these transit routes. The realization of SPEC will lead to a huge gains for Pakistan. This is an obvious reality, but achieving these gains will take a lot of effort for Pakistan. In the new global conjuncture, the Ukraine-Russian war is a turning point. Frankly, this war includes significant messages for not only the two countries, but for all states in the world, including the international powers. Chinese stance in the Ukraine-Russian war is meaningful in this context. Undoubtedly, there are many alternative courses of action and that Pakistan could take. The most important of these alternatives would be for Islamabad to adopt a multi-vector foreign policy approach rather than a choice between two actors. We are witnessing a process of change and search in the world, especially based on international actors. For example, Chinese foreign policy is changing. As a member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, China is trying to establish a close relationship with the Gulf states, also the Shanghai Cooperation Geography and its near abroad. Likewise, it's noteworthy that the United States, too, is turning to very different and comprehensive bilateral relations to achieve its goals. There is no doubt that the elimination of the ethnic and religious problems facing Pakistan and the region is of a paramount importance to the process. To keep these problems under control, a new concept is required. This concept will be a win not only for Pakistan, but also for the Eurasian region and the Indian Ocean region, including all the surrounding countries and the Gulf states more broadly. Everyone observes that there is a new mobility in the Asia region and Indian Ocean region. Soon, Soon, we will witness important political developments in some of the South Asian countries. The dominant and deliberate policy of the Central Asian countries, which strive to implement a policy of balance, is bearing fruit. In this process, what kind of a future the United States, which has both developed relations with and opposed the Taliban, is pushing Afghanistan towards is a thesis subject. Another issue is the development in Iran and Caucasus, of course. As I expressed before, Pakistan has several aims. In that sense, in addition to SPEC, diversifying bilateral and regional economic and trade relations with Central Asia, the Caucasus, the Gulf states, the West, and even Russia, and expanding existing corridors to more than one apart from SPEC would be significant and will be significant not only based diversifying corridors, but also in terms of the steps needed for regional peace and connectivity. I believe that the solution to some regional problems exported and caused by the West can only be solved through bilateral negotiations. I would like to make it clear that such unresolved problems have not benefited any country and will not benefit any country in the future. Many countries in different regions, including our near abroad, started to solve their problems within themselves. For example, in the last 2 years, Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan, Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan have ended their problems, and even Azerbaijan and Armenia have been taking important steps in this direction. No deal can be done without compromises. No deal can be done without compromises and concessions. The important thing is to take the first step towards solving the problems. It will be followed by others. So first step is very important. Undoubtedly, it wouldn't be correct to look at the current process, developments and findings, predictions and recommendations put forward in this context only from 2022. In this context, a realistic future projection is very important. For example, when we look at the not so distant 2030s, we will witness that the power struggle between the United States and China will intensify not only in the military, but also in economic, commercial, and energy dimensions. And in this context, the importance of logistics and corridors will increase even more. In this process, which aims to collapse China, a possible economic crisis in China will undoubtedly lead to commercial and logistical problems worldwide. This issue has started to make itself felt for some time with COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine war, pushing the world to search for new alternatives. In this context, countries with educated and qualified human resources have come to the fore. To put it bluntly, Pakistan, with its production capacity and human resources, has much greater opportunities and a near future for other leading countries in South Asia. Pakistan's preparations for this process will be very important regionally and globally. Here, Pakistan needs to make a strong place in the production and supply chains in terms of energy supply and energy security. To achieve this goal and take its place strongly in the new process, choosing one of the global powers may not yield the desired result. As a conclusion, I can say that SPEC is not only an infrastructure project with its relevant partners, but also a project of regional and even global scope and importance. In this context, Indian Ocean region is important not only for SPEC, but also for the future of Pakistan's corridor-centric policy of regional connectivity, which includes the Gulf states, the Caucasus, and Central Asia, as well as South Asia. In this context, before I conclude, I would like to underline once again the three main security challenges facing SPEC: security of maritime corridors and the future of Indian Ocean region, escalating ethnical and religious problems in the region, current and possible reactions of regional and global powers, and political polarizations effects on these transit routes. On this occasion, I would like to end my speech with a Turkish proverb. We never let our friends down. Thank you very much for your interest.
We never let our friends down. Very informative presentation. We learned that compromise is must for solutions, importance of logistics, and the connectivity of Pakistan to various regions. We talk about the position of Pakistan as very important. Ladies and gentlemen, we must think about Turkey also. Turkey, because of it has more neighbors, more maritime neighbors. So the connectivity which Turkey provides is between the two continents is at another scale. And now our next speaker is from Russia, the biggest country in the world, 50 neighbors, and it has numerous amount of seas and oceans, and he is the right person to talk on the topic at hand. So we have next Dr. Peter Topic-Kanov from SIPRI, the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. He is an associate senior researcher in the SIPRI Weapons of Mass Destruction program. Peter works on issues related to the nuclear non-proliferation, disarmament, arms control, and impact of new technologies on the strategic stability. Peter was a fellow at the Carnegie Moscow Center's Non-Proliferation Program. Prior to joining SIPRI in 2018, Peter held the position of senior researcher at the Center for International Security at the Primakov National Research Institute of World Economy and International Relations of the Russian Academy of Sciences. He has been an expert at the Russian International Affairs Council since 2014. Over to Dr. Peter Topic-Kanov, and he will be speaking on maritime interdependence for a shared future.
Thank you so much, dear moderator. Your request at the beginning of the session was to be more optimistic. And I will try, but unfortunately I cannot promise that it will be only about optimism and a positive agenda, especially because I will try to describe how the lessons and effects of the current crisis in Europe is felt or maybe felt in the region of the Indian Ocean. In the context of the subject I was offered by the organizers of this event. But before that, I would like to highlight my huge pleasure to be here. I would like to thank the National Institute of Maritime Affairs and its partners for inviting me and for having an opportunity to meet old friends and meet new friends as well. It's my immense privilege to be with the high esteemed panel. Somehow my job was done by previous speakers. That is why I will have some mentions of the factors and some highlights that already discussed before. And at this point, I will try to be brief. When discussing maritime interdependence, there are many security dimensions. And what is important, it's more and more difficult to say when there is a line between the politics, security, and economics. And especially the current event in Europe demonstrated how they are interconnected with each other. And I would list some of the security issues, and in each of these issues there are very clear interdependence of political, economic, and security and defense factors. First, it's about security of cargo transportation, prevention of restricting and limiting cargo flows by individuals, countries, and groups of countries. And here, by the way, we can mention sanctions regimes, unilateral, multilateral, sometimes legal, sometimes under question, but nevertheless. Then, security of cargo transportation against piracy challenge. Then security of energy supply, ensuring a stable supply and demand of energy resources, unhindered delivery of resources to the consumer. And safety of economic activities at sea, fishing and other economic activities, extraction of energy resources, tourism. Then national security in the narrow sense against military threats and challenges, and in a broader sense too. International security against the challenges of weapons of mass destruction proliferation, international organized crime and terrorism. Environmental safety, including preservation of the maritime ecosystem and resources, and in a broader sense to work together against the risks and challenges related to the climate change. In all these dimensions, states and non-state actors sometimes have different views on the future, and the processes that increase interdependence between them happen parallel with the aggravation of contradictions and the emergence of conflicts and disputes between them. The crisis in Europe that erupted in 2022 provided at least two perspectives relevant to my topic. First, it showed a high level of maritime interdependence, with events in Europe impacting circumstances far beyond that region, including in the Indian Ocean region. Secondly, the crisis in Europe has provided many relevant lessons for other regions, including the Indian Ocean region as well. Speaking about the high maritime interdependence marked by the European crisis, I would like to emphasize that detailed assessment cannot be here, unfortunately. They cannot be here because the crisis is in full swing and the likelihood of its further escalation is very high. There is no predictability in this area even for the next months. But there may be preliminary assessments of how it affected maritime interdependence. First, as already mentioned, it limited the supply of grain and fertilizer supplied from Russia and Ukraine. Second, it has changed the flow of cargo that now bypasses the war zone and, in a broader sense, partially Russia as well. In addition to increasing the delivery time of goods, this in the future will increase flows in the Indian Ocean region. Third, faced with sanctions, Russia began redirecting energy flows from Europe to China and India. it's still difficult to say what the growing dependence of India on Russian energy resources will result in. But the flow of energy resources in the Indian Ocean will increase. The Indian need to protect these flows will also grow. Fourth, anti-Russian sanctions and Russian retaliatory measures have brought down trade between Russia and the West. At the same time, they revived projects that are united by one term, International North-South Transport Corridor. The prospects for the development of these projects are becoming more realistic. The multi-vector nature of India's approach to using these projects is reflected in several goals that India is trying to achieve. The first goal is to develop a transport infrastructure that connects India with the countries of Central Asia. In this context, India attaches great importance to the port of Chabahar. But India attaches the importance to this, we discussed a lot, so for India it's important from many points of view, and I would mention some of them. The second goal involves the activation of bilateral trade with Russia through Iran. At the same time, India is ready to consider two ways to Russia through Iran. One of them runs east of the Caspian Sea through Iran, Turkmenistan, and Kazakhstan. And this summer, there were two test transportations from Russia, from the transport hub under the capital of Russia, Moscow, through this way. The most difficult thing is in this route is about building a modern railway network in that part of Iran that should be part of this transport route. The second route goes through Iran and Azerbaijan. And here it's a more developed, more modernized, and there are more investments there. And from this point of view, it's a more operationally ready. And finally, the third goal of India is to develop a trade route to Europe through Iran, Armenia, and Georgia by facing Russia. And here for India, there is a big strategic challenge, which is more and more significant influence of Azerbaijan. As it was mentioned during my most recent meeting with people from Iran and Armenia, they have a concern that due to the Azerbaijani military activities, they can lose the common border between them. As a result, India focuses on different groups of states united with the framework of the development of international North-South transport corridor. To achieve the first goal, India focuses on the ties with Iran and the countries of Central Asia. To achieve the second goal, India is ready to develop projects with Iran, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, and Russia. And secondly, with Iran, Azerbaijan, and Russia. And finally, to achieve the third goal, India is joining forces with Iran and Armenia. Naturally, Indian experts say that within the framework of these projects, India doesn't plan any connections with Pakistan or the China-associated BRI projects. But those experts with whom I spoke in Central Asia and Armenia hope it will be possible to connect these two transport projects and to make them intercomplementary. These countries do not want to be a field of competition between the two transport mega projects. First, the deep crisis in the relations between Russia and the West has affected international cooperation in the fight against terrorism, piracy, and the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. This crisis has raised the possibility of ending US-Russia nuclear arms control and, in general, nuclear disarmament efforts. It is unlikely that this will lead to a nuclear arms race, but this has already led to a revision of armament programs and defense budgets worldwide, including in the Indian Ocean region. The further militarization of the Indian Ocean, already mentioned during the previous session, and the growth of opportunities and intentions of external powers to project force in the Indian Ocean are obvious results of this change. The fifth point allows me to move on to the lessons of the crisis in Europe for the Indian Ocean region. Therefore, when reviewing armament programs, countries carefully study the experience of military confrontation between Russia and Ukraine. Without a doubt, this experience speaks to the importance of the sea and air-based unmanned platforms. Such platforms can play a highly destabilizing role, especially dangerous between nuclear-armed states. It also highlights the importance of protecting against such platforms that both states and non-state actors can launch. The integrated layered defense consisting of anti-missile, air defense, anti-submarine, and anti-ship defense received significant attention following the military confrontation between Russia and Ukraine. In addition to the autonomous systems, there are other technologies played a disruptive role in the context of the growing tensions between Russia and the West in general, such as cyber means, electronic warfare, for instance. There were the cases when civilian ships and civilian airplanes navigation was affected by the electronic efforts used in Europe. Another lesson of the European crisis was the lack of effective international instruments to prevent conflicts of this magnitude and return them to a diplomatic channel. Peace enforcement in this context proved to be an ineffective concept. Whether this means a profound international institution crisis is still premature to say, but for countries, neighboring states adopting more aggressive doctrines and actively arming themselves, this is a wake-up call. At the same time, a stronger Russia has been fighting against a weaker state for almost a year now, which indicates that not all goals can be achieved by military means. Therefore, for many countries, including Pakistan, China, India, there were high-level calls for Russia and Ukraine to start negotiations and stop the violence. This particular lesson inspires hope that the ideas of dialogue and the tools of diplomacy will remain influential despite the growth of conflict potential in the world and the Indian Ocean in particular. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Peter Topichkanov. Very important discourse. He talked about the thin line, very important to understand the thin line between security, economics, and politics. And then the crisis in Europe, the war between Russia and Ukraine, and the maritime interdependence. At one stage, they are sanctioning, but they are interdependent also. So you have the gas going to Germany, and then the Indian connection. They want the routes through Azerbaijan, Iran, but they don't want Pakistan to participate. So very important things told by Dr. Peter Topichkanov. Our next speaker is online, and he will be speaking in the very early hours directly from Texas. Dr. Samir M. Iqbal is a professor at Texas University, USA. Dr. Samir Iqbal is a professor of electrical and computer engineering at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, USA. Dr. Iqbal has mentored several startups bringing together academics and industrial partners, and has also served as a department chair. His research has focused on cancer nanotechnology, nano-bio interface issues, and novel renewable energy technology. He is a fellow of the Royal Society of Chemistry. He was a President Research Fellow at University of Texas at Arlington and a distinguished lecturer for IEEE, Engineering in Medicine and Biology, Society and Nanotechnology Council for many years. Dr. Iqbal earned his PhD from Electrical and Computer Engineering Department, Purdue University, West Lafayette, USA. Over to Dr. Samir Iqbal, and he will be talking about the prospects of marine-based renewable energy. Dr. Iqbal, I hope you can hear us. Right, over to you.
All right. Thank you for inviting me to this amazing event. I really appreciate Admiral Hawar Ali Shah for the great introduction. I'm a professor of engineering, and my talk will be much more focused on what are some practices that are happening around the world on marine renewable energy, and how we can learn and maybe use some of that information to implement in the context of Pakistan. This picture is from Abdul Salam Institute from Trieste, Italy. Just wanted to share. This is a focus of how we can help Pakistani academia, research institutes, or institutes like NEMA to give a vision about renewable energies, and especially marine-based renewable energies. We all know there is a lot of dependence on fossil fuels, on non-renewable resources, which are depleting, and a lot of focus around the world is on renewables. And unfortunately, if you look at the energy current and future prospects of Pakistan, there is little to no renewable aspect in it. We are still focusing much more on oil and gas, LPG, coal, and that possibly needs to change. There are four major sources of renewable energy: sun, wind, water, earth. We know at a higher level, but an area that's emerging is marine-based, which would mean more like how do we tap the renewables that come from the natural phenomena of tides and waves. And the simple reason is these resources are limitless, they are safer, they do not depend on other countries or other regions. And of course, they are environmentally friendly. And that's a more recent thing. If we think about COP27, there is talk about providing money to nations that have been hardly hit because of the improper balance of climate impact that has happened on third world countries or developing countries. Oceans have tremendous amount of renewable energy. They have a natural ebb and flow, and Navy folks know about that. How do we tap into that? How do we get our focus on using that energy, which interestingly has more capacity than solar? We do not talk about that, but just because we have been focused on other regions or other aspects of energy. Waves, and these are all natural phenomena where we see the changes in tides, up and down, ebb and flow, where we see there's natural currents around the world, and those currents move big mass of water that can be tapped into. Tidal energy, it's predictable, and it can play a major role in electricity generation and provide sizable quantities of power. In the Persian Gulf Stream, there is a major tide, and this has a steady, reliable source, untapped resource that can possibly be tapped into. Now, waves, for example, they are influenced by the action of wind, of ocean. They bring a lot of eddies. In this case, there was a study which focused on Persian Gulf, what we now call Arabian Gulf in some parts, where we see that there is huge outflow and inflow of currents because of temperatures and other aspects. In the context of Pakistan, the mean sea level across the coast of Persia is about 1.4 meters from the chart datum, and this is slowly but gradually rising, which is an impact of climate change. And that's where COP27 can be tapped into. China was heading the working group, which recently, I think 2 days ago, has put in motion a 20 billion contribution, up to 30 billion contribution every year, going up to 2030. And we know the oil boom, which has been brought about because of the Ukrainian war. Some of countries have made lots of money, and that has gone from the pockets of developing countries like Pakistan. It may be last boom, but even the Middle Eastern countries are moving away from oil, and they are finding other ways, other maybe not sustainable ways, but to tap into other ways to sustain their income. Now, wave energy is a steadily growing field. It's a new area, new sector. There are lots of research that's still needed on basic components, on technological sides, on planning, on getting the communities to be involved to deal with the non-technical issues as well. A lot of innovative instrumentation still needs to be developed to demonstrate these projects. And I will share some examples how this has been done in US, in Canada, how European Union is looking at it. Now, water power has powered, water-based energy is much more than wind, up to more than 2 orders more in terms of kilowatt per meter square. It gives us smaller hourly and daily variability, unlike wind or solar, which means we can predict much more with a higher confidence. The waves travel longer distances without major energy loss or environmental impact. A lot of commercialization has happened since 2014, 2015, and in USA, about 14 tidal energy projects have been connected to the grid, and they are providing up to 20 megawatts per installation. In UK, they have been doing that even for longer period. Now, there is different ways and different approaches how this is done, and generally the idea is that we create devices that capture the kinetic energy of waves and transform those into electricity. We generally call them wave energy converters, WECs. So WECs have basically 4 components. There is a structure, prime mover, foundation, or mooring, the power takeoff system, which would convert the mechanical energy into electrical energy, and the control system. They can be categorized according to installation locations, maybe close to the shore or up to certain depths offshore, greater than 40 meters. We can also classify based on the conversion principles as it's shown in the figure on the right hand side. There are many systems that have been already deployed, and here are some examples. Aquabuoy is a large 3-meter wide buoy which is tied to a 70 foot or so long shaft. By movement up and down, the water is rushed into a tube which causes a piston to move, and the piston then turns into a pump, that pump can turn a turbine. Now, on the right-hand side, there is another example, what we call power buoy. The power buoy is, again, a hydraulic cylindrical motion with up and down motion. It turns a turbine. Some of those are developed by industry. Some of them have been developed by universities. For example, the Oregon State has created a buoy system, which is left lower corner. It is a linear generator. And those who have been involved with power generation, I know some of them, ME branch officers, if I can call them out, they know the basic principle and even they can create those things. But now we have to think about how do we put them into a system where the movement of water can be tapped into moving the turbine. These are examples of tidal turbines, which are just like wind turbines, and they have blades which turn a rotor to power a generator. Again, these can be classified on where they are placed, either on surface of water or submerged. And I have a few examples where Verdun Power is working on tides and rivers. So again, thinking about dams versus turbines, these are just taking the flow of water and turning it into energy. And there are many different simulations that have come out and which have given us turbines with much more bang for the buck, as they say, much more energy coming out from those turbines instead of just a linear device. On the offshore devices or offshore systems, there is one which has been recently installed in Ireland, and this is a tidal platform with two big blades. They call it ATIR. They developed in Spain and they are deployed in Ireland. And double high output rotors, they give combined power of 1.5 megawatt. There are studies going on to understand what is the speed and direction of currents through the water, and that's the lower left hand flow watt system. And that helps in finding where to place the future tidal turbines, what sites could be used. And there are plans and calculations where one farm can give as much as 17 to 18 megawatts from one site. And that's the RAS Blancard in France, the system that's shown here. Now, how did they get here and where they are going? European Union is investing a huge amount of money. Their goal is to have 32% renewables by 2030. And the major emphasis on doing this is the energy security, of course, less dependence on fossil fuel, less issues about environment. They want to create an internal energy market so they do not depend on foreign forces on that. Of course, they want to make the system efficient, decarbonization of the economy, because they were required and now they have been asked to pay for the impact of carbonization. And a huge investment is going on now on the research, innovation and competitiveness. These are now turning into entrepreneurship in those countries where many new companies are coming up who are serving various aspects of the whole renewable energy directive. Canada, this is another example of a simple device which is with very smooth waves. What it can do is it can get almost a 3-time impact of their ebb and flow motion with that. Now, on the investment that they're doing, they are focused on different areas. Of course, there's design validation. They want to create a supply chain, a whole ecosystem of logistics. And instead of just removing or replacing the existing system, they want to integrate in the current systems, which is a whole area of research on the management of energy. Canada is the leader at this time. Canada has reached 17% of total Canada's primary energy coming from renewables. And they have recently started focusing on moving water. And their goal is...
Dr. Samir, sorry to interrupt. You have a minute to wind up.
Yeah, I'm getting there. So these projects have different locations, but the goal is to get into gigawatts and terawatts at the end. Their investment is, again, in private enterprises, universities, and research centers. And the goal is to have a hybrid system where we can integrate our offshore marine-based energy systems into existing grid. In the context of Pakistan, there are three major areas how it can be done. Work on industry, work on research and technology, and look at bigger vision about the ocean. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Samir, for getting up so early in Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, we learned about the ocean. Renewable energy has more potential than solar, which was something very significant. Then we also heard that Canada is a leader, and then the way forward to for Pakistan. Still, this is the future. Hopefully another 15-20 years we'll be getting a lot of our energy from the ocean. Thank you, Dr. Samir. And now the house is open for question and answers. Kindly keep your questions precise and introduce yourself while asking the questions. There's a question on that side. Kirby and then Hashmi. Hashmi, you can ask, maybe he can ask later.
Kamran Hashmi from Nimata. My question is for Dr. Peter. You mentioned about the international north-south trading corridor. How do you see the future of it with respect to the CPEC? Because it has been highlighted a lot, and I believe only 2 containers were shipped from Russia to India. So how do you see, sir, the future of it?
Thank you so much for this question. It's difficult to predict the future. We can understand and assess the demands, the current demands, because initially it was created, the idea behind this was to transport goods from India to Europe and from Europe to India. Now the border between Russia and Europe is closed for such transport flow. So from this point of view, what boosted this corridor now is demand from Russia and demand for many things, for many stuff, including for agricultural products, for technical equipment, for engineering machines, and so on and so forth. But the problem is that to boost this further, there is a need to have a balance in exchanges of loads for these transportation flows, because normally Russia needs containers, not containers, but tanks to move oil products to India and to move fertilizers for agricultural sector of India. But back these tankers moved empty, and it was too expensive. And from India it was worse, because India moved its goods in containers to Russia, but back there was nothing to return in these containers. If the countries have this balance, they will have a stable use of this corridor. But the problem is, as I mentioned very briefly, that there is a very long distance if to choose an eastern route, eastern to the Caspian Sea, to build a normal railway infrastructure in Iran. Because now it's a one-way railway path, and also with the different standards, if to compare with the post-Soviet republics. So there is a need for huge investments. But for India, and this is the last point I would like to mention, for India it's important to use these projects not in one direction, not only with Russia, but to use any possible opportunities to, for instance, to establish an alternative way to Europe. Because when even green container transport ship blocked Suez Channel, for India it was like a wake-up call, and they started thinking about alternative ways. So, and here they see like some connections with the transport concepts in Europe. There is a concept of gateway to Europe, also about bringing goods from Asia bypassing Russia. So it's all about, it's difficult to predict, unfortunately. This is my answer to your question. But the good thing is that there is a demand from Central Asian republics. They don't want to be a place of competition between the Chinese project and North-South transport corridor. That is why they are very interested in connecting them. And if they are influential and effective in this diplomacy, it will help to find compromises between India and China on this matter. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Commander Sajjad Kharbe. My question is to Dr. Samir Iqbal. Samir Iqbal told us about the tidal energy. What I have learned is tidal energy is very costly as compared to solar and wind energy. I want to, Dr. Samir, please put something, what we can do to, I mean to say, this cost should be decreased, and especially in the Pakistan. The cost effectiveness, please tell about the cost effectiveness in the Pakistan. Thank you.
Right. So the basic question is the techno-economic analysis that needs to be done. There is many big infrastructure, but what it gives in terms of the energy security, that would be lack of less dependence on fossil fuel, less dependence on external forces that can change the price of the oil. Now, thinking about the global world, a war happens in other part of the world, but the gas prices or the fossil fuel dependence really hits Pakistan or any other country for that matter. That investment, especially the coast of Pakistan, it's very well developed now. The whole coast is like it needs to be tapped into. Smaller projects that can focus on regions can ultimately possibly serve the whole country. The cost, it will come at a cost, but there will be a trade-off, there will be a balancing point after which the whole infrastructure is just a plus for the economy. But like any other big shift in dependence on existing resources, somebody told me a long time ago, if you want to be at a place that you have never been before, you will have to do things that you have never done before. So that being free from external forces for energy, that's why the whole world is investing in their own countries, in their own regions.
Admiral Farooq.
Thank you very much, sir. My question is to Commodore Anjum Sarfraz. The first part of your presentation. Very rightly, you have mentioned the slow pace of handling of ships at Gwadar port. You mentioned about that. Policy initiatives in the development of the port, that has not been very systematic or on a regular basis. You talked about the issue of hinterland connectivity, and beyond Khunjarab, we really don't know what is going to be the outlook of the region beyond our geographical borders in future. But you had put a lot of optimism that the situation in Afghanistan has considerably improved. Regretfully, sir, I don't see that practically on the ground. Looking at the past trend of incidents that have happened in Chaman and the kind of sore issues which we have with Afghanistan. So, in the absence of conducive environment for transit, transshipment beyond our borders, hinterland connectivity issues, which to me are quite encouraging looking at the statistics that you have shown, but the dismal state of the progress made on port, Gwadar port, even Karachi port has not been able to be optimized to its optimum capability. I believe it is operating at 76 or 78% of its full capacity. How do you link and connect up these three different, matrices into one whole, subset? The issue of development on the port, hinterland connectivity, and beyond that, into Afghanistan and beyond to Central Asian republics. What does your study tell you, sir, that you can share with us to enlighten the House? Thank you.
So thank you very much. First of all, before going to Afghanistan, I would talk about China. Basically, Gwadar port was made, and it has been made part of CPEC since 2015. Even after 2015, the port activity has not been at optimum performance. China, I have projected the figures. There is hardly any transit trade from Gwadar or from Karachi to China. Chinese western province, it is obvious that the development has not been taken place to that, like in the eastern part, Shanghai and all that. But the people who have visited, I have not visited that area, there are industries, there are avenues that the trade can travel even from PQA or Karachi and then from Gwadar to China, for which these basically, when the feasibility studies were carried out, they said that the western province of China, their supply will be from these three ports. So, first of all is the Chinese. Now, if China is not needing any import-export, then we have, as I have said, Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan. Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, they are eager to have transit trade, transit trade from Karachi and Gwadar ports. But now, the quadrilateral agreement is not functional since 2019. I have talked to the people, trucks people and NHA people and railway and all that. They say that once the cargo our trucks have been going to Kunjrab Pass, they unload the complete cargo and carry out the inspection, custom inspection, then they load the cargo, and the procedure is very cumbersome. So they said that the procedure is required to be made more simplified. And then for the last 3 years, as I've said, this route is not operational. This is point number one. Now coming over to Afghanistan. Afghanistan, I have said only that the transit trade to the 3 states which share the border with Afghanistan, Tajikistan and other 2, their transit trade can go from these 3 ports because the situation in Afghanistan is improving. This is what I said. Situation is improving, so we should start talking with them in the sense that as we gradually improves, we should have the transit trade route through Afghanistan. That was my point. Coming over to transshipment. Transshipment means that the cargo comes and then it remains in the bonded area of the port, no custom checking, no narcotics checking, and then it is loaded on the smaller ship, feeder ship, and then it goes to the other port, like Singapore, Salalah, Duqm, and Sohar. These 3 ports are doing that. And they have, if you look at their performance, their cargo handling, it is about 10 times more than us. So once the Gwadar port was conceived and was operational in 2007, in January 2007, Gwadar port was operational. If we had started transshipment procedures or transshipment efforts, probably we would have done something. Now it is little late because Salalah, Sohar, Duqm, they have gone far ahead. But still, China, the company which is operating, the concession holder of the Gwadar port is China Overseas Port Holding Company. That is a state-owned company of China. COSCO Shipping Company is also state-owned of China. COSCO ships, they come to Karachi, they come to PQA, they come to Karachi port, and they are willing to come to Gwadar also, but unfortunately now the draft of the Gwadar port has reduced to 11.5 meter or maybe less than that. So the bigger ships cannot come. So we have carried out study at NEMA. It cost only $49 million to bring it at the 14.5 meter draft. We have put it to Minister of Maritime Affairs, NEMA, through NHQ, and they have started now. Probably the tender has been floated for the dredging, and the dredging will probably be started, and it will take 6 to 8 months to bring it to 14.5 meters. That is for transshipment and transit trade. I hope I have answered your question, sir. Sir.
I would just like to put a small comment, sir.
Sir.
If you kindly allow that. Sir, I had served in Ministry of Defense as Additional Secretary 3. And I can share it with the House. It's not something secret. It's an open secret now. From 2001 till July 2012, and a little period beyond that, Pakistan, with its existing port infrastructure at Karachi Port Trust and Bin Qasim, has handled one of the biggest challenges, military challenges of ISAF, NATO-led ISAF, spearheaded by US with 39 nations operating in Afghanistan. We have handled their cargo from Karachi and Bin Qasim to Afghanistan, and the retrograde cargo on the existing communication network with existing capacities of our ports, and we made it happen. We made it happen. The G-locks I am talking of. Now, if you project this same kind of, architecture beyond into the Central Asian republics, into Afghanistan and China, I believe there is a requirement of multilateralism. Until and unless we and these littoral countries do not understand the importance of transit trade and transshipment, nothing is going to fall in place. So we need to enhance our relevance, we need to enhance our importance, our geostrategic location and our capacity to be able to convince these littoral neighboring countries and particularly landlocked countries what the two existing and the new port at Gwadar can do for us as well as for them. So it's just a comment. I do not solicit a response from you, but this is what was there, because for 2 years I had seen, the retrograde operations of 39 countries operating in Afghanistan, their cargo being pulled out, brought to Karachi and then onward to the next theater of operations. Thank you very much, sir.
Just a short comment. Gwadar was a strategic compulsion. It was never a commercial viability. So it remains, Karachi and PQ always remain, cost effective. That is one of the major reasons. Commodore Babar, last question.
Okay. So thank you very much, sir. Taking this opportunity of the two very representatives of the two friendly countries, Russia and Turkey, my question may be different, maybe a little bit out of space, but I think we should benefit from Mr. Peter. Can you comment on this ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, where it is heading and how it will be settled in whether it will be settled in near future or not? And second question regarding to this is, what about the northern routes? Russia is now operating some northern routes also. And then, is that helping the maritime community also, or the regional connectivity also from that route also? Because you can always move your ships from the northern side of the Russia to the Stockholm on that side. And coming to Turkey, Professor, can you comment, Turkey played a very crucial role in facilitating getting the wheat from this war-torn country to rest of the world. And I think that is also one of the issue which the world is facing now, the food shortage. And Turkey has played a very crucial role in that. Can you just throw light and share some of your experiences or your knowledge on that subject, just to educate House on those two issues? First,
the question to Dr. Peter is probably better, asked over a cup of tea. It's a big question.
Yeah.
And the other question, I think Professor Mehmet can answer. Yeah. And what will be the last question?
Sorry, I'm very sorry. I thought that the question's address is Dr. Yeah, Peter. Yeah.
Opinion about what Turkey played a very crucial role in bringing out the wheat, which was very much needed for the rest of the world through those Bosphorus states and all that. Just share about the experience, your knowledge on that issue, because that is a very crucial for the food security of the globe. So, and Turkey has played, I think, marvelous in that case. So just share it. It is not on this, just only for this exercise, but just for knowledge of all this house, that what is your opinion and how the Turkey played that crucial role, and what is the future of that contract which has already been into place, and is it ongoing, or there is some time lapse also with that?
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, your question is very difficult because when we look at Turkey experience, especially with the Russian war and the Dardanelles and so on, and Turkey's balance of power policy, of course, very important. But when we look at the Turkey's understanding in its foreign policy, the basic approaches is established on win-win. So dialogue and bilateral relations are very important to solve the bilateral or regional problems. So two approaches to the, some problems in around Turkey, or, for example, Indian Ocean region, when we look at. Turkey considers Indian Ocean region not only in terms of a few actors. When we look at Indian Ocean region, it is, I think, much more, and it requires a common dialogue and a common diplomacy between, for example, not only with East Asian countries, but also Central Asian, Gulf, and even African states. So Turkey's position can only seen in that position not to be a part of a problem, because it is not advantage of all the countries. So to provide the agreement base, I think, is very logical and very advantageous way for all the actors. So I think Russian and Ukraine war gives much more message to Turkey's approaches to the great powers games, and to do establishment of a new world order, and to provide or to do this not only with the big powers, but also to consider the middle state countries' role in this process. I think, no, yeah.
In the end, I would like to profoundly thank our speakers from our friendly countries, especially Professor Mehmet Saifuddin, Professor Peter, and Dr. Samir from Texas, and Commodore Safraz. Thank you, and this ends our session. Thank you very much. And we would like, now request the chief guest to say a few words.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable and learned speakers, Admiral Khabar, Admiral Ahmed Saeed, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. It's a great honor for me to speak at the end of this very revealing seminar. I'm not qualified enough to add to what the worthy speakers have said, but I will definitely like to put the things in some historical perspective, because I was the Chief of the Naval Staff, and previous to that, Deputy Chief of Naval Staff Operations, when most of these things were taking place. So I know the history. So I would just like to maybe take a little time for the audience to bear with me. Admiral Khabar introduced me. Yes, it was in, I think, I don't know, 2007 or whatever time frame, that this center was established, and it was named National Center for Maritime Policy Research. And I still think that that nomenclature was more apt than what it has been, renamed. But anyway, it's doing a good job, I think, and I wish them well for the future. The Aman exercise was mentioned. Yes, that was a time, if we go back in time, and I think most of the youngsters were not too old enough to at that time, but that was a period of Pakistan's aloofness from the world. General Musharraf's tenure period. So it was in that context that we thought at NHQ that we should have a maritime exercise from which would be participated by as many countries of the world as possible. And a lot of effort was made, not only at my level as Chief of Naval Staff, but the staff at NHQ in putting together this exercise. And I am very happy to see that this exercise has become one of the major maritime events or naval events in the world over the past 14 years or so, or 15 years. Gwadar, I'll be very blunt, and I think Admiral Khawar has made my task easier. Gwadar is not a deep water port. Let's not fool ourselves. With 11 meters or 14 meters of draft of depth, you can't call a port a deep water port. So it was more a strategic compulsion for Pakistan to build this port rather than any. But I will come to that, why it has not, taken off till now. So the basic issues or basic interests that the states of the IOR should have is the, freedom of the seas, exploitation of seabed and sea resources, anti-piracy, crimes, in that human trafficking, arms and drugs trafficking, search and rescue, and various other things. Now, as far as transit and transshipment is concerned, Karachi can never be a transshipment port because of its location. You are a ship coming from anywhere will have to travel 2 legs of triangle to come to Karachi rather than 1 leg of the triangle, the 3rd leg. So it is always a cost attached to every kilometer or every nautical mile that a ship travels. So I think Karachi port will be well advised to actually focus more on transit for the for the north and probably northeast. But we have a problem over there, as has been as the statistics of traffic or number of containers they show. It is basically the problem of Afghanistan's stability, and as far as China is concerned, my view is that till the time China goes for a mega development projects in the western region of China, there is very little scope for